Hey everyone, it's Ms. De Silva, your school counselor. Thank you for joining me again. We are going to continue with the presentation or the lesson that I had for you last week. And we were talking about the power of positive thinking. If you remember, I started talking to you about what coping skills are, that these are things you can do when you're experiencing or feeling some type of heavy emotion. And one very strong coping skill is simply to work on changing your thoughts and thinking in a more positive way. So let's go to where we left off. So if you remember, we finished this story and we talked about how impactful it was for the giraffe to pretty much just change his thoughts, and the world around him changed. So now I want to talk about how you can be more positive. Sometimes it can be hard to be positive or think positively in a moment, especially if you're feeling sad or mad or upset. But here are 6 ways to practice positive thinking. And if you try practicing these things, then you'll find that it's easier for you to have positive thoughts. So the first one is don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay to be nice to yourself. If you mess up or you say something wrong, it's okay. We all do it. Just do your best to fix it and move forward. There's no reason to dwell on things that have already happened. Number 2 is assume the best of others. So, for some reason, this doesn't happen with a lot of people, but you want to try not to think the worst in other people. Other people make mistakes just like we do. Um, Try to think of other people's perspective before jumping to conclusions, before thinking negatively of that person. Number 3 of how you can be more positive is to always know and remind yourself that nobody is perfect. So, again, be nice to yourself. We all make mistakes. It's okay. And forgive yourself and others when mistakes happen. Number 4 is be appreciative for what you have. So, it can be easy to compare ourselves to other people and want the things that they have, and maybe even get upset when we don't have what they have. Um, but others might even be jealous of what you have. So be appreciative of those things that you do already have, and try not to focus on what you can't or what you can't do or what you don't have, because that'll only make you focus so heavily on negative things. Number 5 is to remember your strengths. So remember that we all have things that we're good at, and we all have things that we're not so good at. So don't focus on those weaknesses. Um, just work on them and be okay with that, because we all have to try to improve in the areas that maybe we're weaker, we have more challenges with, but you also have a lot of strengths, and your strengths are going to be different to other people's strengths. And finally, be proud of yourself. This is a big way to make you feel more positive in general. There's no one like you. Be proud of who you are. And if you don't really think much of yourself, then you're more likely to just be negative and feel negative, and that's a slippery slope. And overall, it'll make you feel worse. So always acknowledge when you do something good, when you do something for yourself or for other people. Um, and yeah, it's okay to be proud of yourself. So if you find that it's kind of hard for you to stay positive, then I have a few tips or suggestions. So, if you get a compliment from someone else, or you accomplish something and you're proud of yourself, like I just talked about, then write it down. Keep a little notebook or put it on like a little index card or postcard and put that on your wall, put it on your fridge, and let people give you compliments. If your teacher is saying that you've really improved at something or they're really proud of you in certain areas, then own it. Like, be like, yeah, I have worked really hard at that. And when you write these things down, put them somewhere where you're going to see them often. Um, and we talked about remembering your strengths. So, something I would like you to do after my video is to make a list of your strengths, everything that you're good at, and don't hold back. It can be small, it can be big. And if you have any trouble with this, then you can ask an adult in your life to help you out because I'm sure they'll have some, but it's okay for us to think about um, the things that we're good at. And so I would really like you to make a list of your strengths, and it can be related to school and stuff that you're able to do outside of school. So many of you might be good at sports, athletic, you can run really fast. Maybe you're good at cooking or baking, or maybe you're really funny and you can make jokes. Maybe you're just a really good big brother or big sister and you're always taking care of your siblings. The list can go on and on. Remember, nothing is too small. So, my next tip or suggestion is to kind of have your own catchphrase handy for when you have negative thoughts. So, when you notice that you're feeling really down and you're like, oh, yeah, I've been having a lot of negative thoughts, then try to go back to this catchphrase that I want you to create for yourself. So, an example here is I can and I will. I can get through anything. I got this. I'm not going to give up. Those are some things that you can do to pep yourself up. And my last tip is to keep trusted adults in your life updated. So, remember, just talk to those adults that you feel comfortable with, and remember that those people are always there to help you. And those can be adults from school and outside of school. So now that we've gone over 6 ways to help ourselves to develop more positive thinking, let's use those ideas to change negative self thoughts to positive. So here is an example. We have Abel studies for his test, but he can't remember the answers on the day of the test. So this is the thought that's going through Abel's mind. The test is too hard and I'm just not smart enough. So obviously that's a negative thought, right? And that's only going to make Abel do worse on the test. So some examples of more positive thinking is he could think to himself, just because I messed up once doesn't mean I'm not smart. There's lots of different examples, but we want to try to work on not being so hard on ourselves and pumping ourselves up and giving positive self-talk. Let's go to another example. Here's the situation. Eric spilled water on his brother's computer. So he thinks to himself, I can't do anything right. I always ruin everything. Again, that's a very negative thought. It's only going to make him feel worse. So let's try to think of a positive thought. Oh no, maybe he could think, let's ask mom what to do, and I'll apologize and make sure that I tell my brother that it was an accident, it was a mistake, I really didn't mean to. And what can I do to fix it? I'm sure my brother's going to understand that it was an accident. So even though it's a really difficult situation for Eric to be in, he could still think in positive ways of like who can help him, how other people can try to show empathy and put themselves in his shoes, that he didn't do it on purpose, right? Mistakes happen all the time. So last time I talked to you about how your thoughts affect your feelings, which then affect your actions, right? So let's go through an example where you can really see this in motion. So here's the situation. Peter tells his mom that, sorry, he's excited that his best friend Joe is coming to his party. Then Joe calls him and he tells Peter that he can't make it to the party. So here's the thought that Peter's having. Joe's missing my party on purpose. He's jealous of me and he's a bad friend. So did Peter have a positive or a negative thought to the situation? Pretty negative, right? Anything could have happened where Joe can't make it to the party anymore. That happens to all of us. Something comes up at home, maybe not feeling well. It could be so many different things. But Peter isn't thinking about any of that, right? He's not showing empathy. He's just upset that Joe's not coming. So he had a very negative thought. So let's think about feeling, the next step. Now that Peter had this negative thought, how do you think Peter felt because of his thoughts? So because of his thoughts, he's probably really upset, maybe frustrated, maybe even mad. He probably has a lot of negative feelings going on in his body. And he's probably not going to enjoy his party very much. But let's go to the next step, which is act. So what do you think happened because of Peter's thoughts and feelings? I already kind of said this before, but I would think that Peter probably didn't even enjoy his party very much after that. Maybe he wasn't grateful for the other friends and family that were able to make it to his party because he was so focused on that negative thought about Joe not being able to make it to the party. So let's think if we change Peter's first negative thought. So from the beginning, changing Peter's thought to one that's more positive. So what if instead Peter thought, that sucks, that Joe can't come. I'm going to ask mom if I can invite him to come over next weekend instead so he isn't sad for missing my party. So this gives a way more positive outlook to the situation. He's assuming the best in his friends, Joe, and he's still appreciating that he has an awesome birthday party that's about to happen. And he's not letting a negative thought completely ruin his friendship or his birthday party. So then from changing that thought, how do you think that Peter feels? So Peter might still feel disappointed, but he shouldn't be as upset as he would have been with that negative thought, right? Maybe instead he's excited that next weekend he gets to see his friend, and then this weekend he gets to have a party. So he can overall have a much more positive feelings. And finally, act. So what do you think happened because of Peter's thoughts and feelings? The outcome can be way better this time. By thinking more positively, it led to Peter feeling more positively, being more excited about his party and his friendships. And then that will affect the way that he acts at his party and the next weekend when he's with his friend. So um, I know that uh, sometimes it can be hard to look at the positive part of a situation, but this is an example of how something can really build up and completely ruin an experience for you. So try your best to look at the positive part of a situation and to think the best of people. So I hope that these last couple lessons have really shown you how positive thinking can be so powerful for you. You can change the way that a situation turns out or a problem turns out just by your thoughts because you are the one that has power over your thoughts, right? Um, so with that, I'm going to leave you so that you remember that positive thinking is very powerful. It's a great coping skill. It's a great way to change the outcome of an experience or your entire day. And yeah, it can just have a big impact. All right. Well, thank you again for joining me. I always appreciate it. And I will see you next time.